Before the Ranger Creed is recited by a formation of Rangers at any ceremony, you will always hear the narrator say this. Will all Rangers, past and present, please join us as we recite the Ranger Creed? Every Ranger will stand, and as they say those six stanzas, they are transformed back to a time when they had the pleasure and the burden of this brotherhood. That feeling is hard to describe. However, it's one that never leaves you. It's a connection that spans the globe and can be reignited when you hear the phrase, "Hey, Ranger, what battalion you from?" Amongst this formation, there are Rangers that stand out. They are legends of this elite organization, and when their names are spoken, people instantly have a story and for a moment relive it. Legends of the 75th podcast wants to capture those feelings and those stories. We want to ensure that these legends' triumphs and sacrifices never fade away. So sit back with your favorite adult beverage and listen to stories from the legends of the 75th. Hey, welcome everybody to episode 22 of Legends of the 75th. Super excited to have everybody dialing in today. And we have the absolute honor of sitting down with Lieutenant General Michael Ferriter. You probably have served with him, and then he has sons that have served as well. You know, Patty and Dan also that have served in the 75th. But before I get into the introduction, real quick, hey, I just want to say thank you to everybody that's subscribing, supporting a lot of the endeavors that we're doing for Legends of the 75th, and then also a lot of the specific people that have helped with Operation Kabanaton. So we are in full motion for that. January, February, we're doing the fundraising. We've definitely raised some funds. We got some more funds that we're trying to raise for that. And I just want to make it very, very clear. Every single dollar that we make for Legend of the 75th, between the podcast subscriptions, the apparel that we sell, is going towards the nonprofit that we are establishing for Legend of the 75th, but more importantly for Operation Kabanaton, where Rangers will be going over to tell Ranger stories, and it's going to be first of many projects that we're going to be doing this. So it's pretty exciting, and there's a lot more news to be coming, but I do appreciate everybody so far. So if you don't know Lieutenant General Michael Ferriter, he commissioned in 1979, 1 year before I was born, by the way. He went on to serve in multiple positions within the 75th, 375 and also 275, and then regimental headquarters also. He was a company commander, field grade, and a battalion commander. He went on after his time in the 75th to be a commanding general of the installation and the management department. And then at post-retirement, served on the National Veterans Memorial and Museum Foundation as one of the kind of the founding actually CEOs of that company. He is a Ranger Hall of Fame member and also a distinguished member of the regiment. And something that I saw that I thought was really, really cool, especially when other people give you this title, it's always even better. He's also known as the Soldier's General. So that is something that was probably earned, and we're definitely going to dive into it in this episode. So, sir, it's an absolute honor. I know we've been talking quite a bit the last month, and I ran into Dan in the airport like about 2 months ago, and we definitely thought it was time to sit down with you. So, how you doing today? I know you just flew back in from spending some time with Patty as well.
Yeah, I'm doing great. Life is good, and I'm glad to be with you, Mike. And I was actually last night with about eight of the Sante Raiders and Max Mullen and a few other
Yeah, Max.
Ranger,
Yeah.
our era Rangers, and just amazing to be with them. But we're doing great, and yeah, if you're not leaving an airplane from some mission that you go to take care of other people, then you're fixing to get ready to get on an airplane and go take care of someone. So I'm
Yeah.
set, and I'm really happy to be with you today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I flew in from New York this morning, so I hear you. I spent a couple days up there. More for business side, my daytime job than this, but yeah, it seems like we're always on planes. So, well, sir, if we can, I'd love to just start at the beginning. Why did you want to join the military? I know you kind of had an interesting upbringing. Um, but I'd love to just talk about that and, why you want to join the military and then, why you kind of got the itch to serve in the 75th Ranger Regiment.
Yeah, so I grew up in a military family, everyone. My dad was a private in the Army, went to OCS, and spent most of World War II as a recon company commander for the 25th Infantry Division. And then in 89, after changing command out of Bravo Company, we went back to Guadalcanal and walked his patrols. It was epic. But being the son of an OCS grad and essentially a pre-range, before the Rangers
Yeah.
or parallel to the Rangers, we rolled our socks. We answered the phone. Colonel Ferriter's quarters. Mikey speaking. This line is
Oh,
unsecured.
wow.
And so I grew up in that. We also moved a lot. I moved 18 times in my first 18 years of being alive, and so that really helped to understand people. And there was always a restart, and bullies. That's a golden retriever if anyone cares. There's always trying out for a team
Yeah.
again, and and I think that helped with a keen understanding of that people are really important, and
Right.
that to me, you have no idea either the fury of the dogs of war in a platoon or the intellect and the smarts of your soldiers. And so that taught me that. So I was at Lake Tahoe, California, and then Carmel as a high schooler. And my dad sort of said, "What are you going to do after June 6th?" And I said, "I don't know why." He said, "Because you graduate from high school that day, and you won't have a place to live." So, like many of us, I applied to West Point and also got an ROTC scholarship, and I wanted to play baseball down in University of California, Santa Barbara. Um,
Right.
I did look at this military college in South Carolina called the Citadel, and I said, "Okay, doesn't look too good to me." You know, Santa Barbara's number 1 party school in America, and the coach wants me to play, and my friends are down there. And he said, "I want you to look at this military school." And turned out that the president of the school had been commanding general in Berlin when we lived there, and a friend of my father's. And so then I knew that I could go to college and my parents wouldn't have to pay anything. I just whatever it took for me to bear the burden, I would happy to do that. So I shipped off to Charleston, and I had hair longer than yours for sure. And so they shaved my head and had me walking around with low quarters, black socks, and in a PT outfit. And I said, "Okay, Dad 1, Mike 0, but let's kind of see where this goes." And I knew I wanted to serve, and I wanted to be an infantryman, and I wanted to be a paratrooper. I didn't know anything about the Rangers at that point, but I
Right.
wanted to try to be the best that I could be, and I wanted to be with the best leaders and soldiers and warriors that there were. And this is 79, and so we're right in between. Coming out of Vietnam, the Army was sucking bad. Um, the Abrams Charter may have just been issued. Um, the battalions were just standing up. And so off I go. And I told them I want to go to Fort Bragg. I want to be a paratrooper. And they said, "That's awesome. You're going to Fort Riley and you're going to be mechanized and you're not even going to Ranger School." So I didn't go to Ranger School until I was a captain. And
Wow.
so the chances of a leg, essentially I'd gone to jump school, but I was in a leg outfit. No offense to anybody, but it was. And it was mechanized and it was in the middle of the country. You were on a 96-day string and not a 96-hour string to go to Europe. And the chances of someone um, being here talking to you today from that are pretty low. But my first lesson to everybody out there is you can do anything. You
Right.
know, you can apply yourself, and it more people put the stumbling blocks in front of themselves than anyone else puts in front of us. So I'd say keep going. Whatever your dream is, people go for it. Um, I was first lieutenant. They offered me several company commands at Riley, and I knew there was a bigger army and a better army, more for me to learn. So I turned them down, which was insane. And I was threatened by the battalion commander. And my first company commander was the worst leader I've ever met. He was a
Yeah.
thief and a liar, a cheat. And so he taught me everything not to do. But I ended up going to Fort Wainwright, where 2 of the rifle companies were straight leg infantry, and one was Charlie Airborne. and there were four guys who had been lieutenants at Fort Bragg, and so there's no chance that this guy coming out of Riley would ever get Charlie Airborne unless you try.
Right.
And so I was selected to go to Charlie Airborne, and we have reunions now with like 80 guys from 1985
Wow.
come together out of 124. It's just a really tough, good men that carried Arctic rucksacks and snowshoes, and they were just badass good. And then so the brigade commander said, like he was coming to commander, but you got to change out. And I said, what am I going to do? And he said, call HRC or PERSCOM. So I called them and they said, you can go to one of the three R's. You can go to recruiting, you can go to the reserves or ROTC. And the second
They
lesson
didn't
for
they
everyone
didn't
is
say Ranger Regiment.
that's exactly what I said. I said the fourth R is Rangers, and they said you can't do that. And so I think it's important to reject rejection, and I love to teach that and counter offer, because if you believe what you believe and it's the right thing to go after, go for it. And so I called FirstCom and the guy says, we don't have anything. You're going to go. How about San Jose? It's close to Monterey. We near your folks. I see your home of record. And I said, these phones are real scratchy. I can't hear you. I'll call you back. So I called down to Second Range Battalion and said, hey, I'm available in 30 days. And my friend Bernie Champeau was the battalion S1. He said, I don't know who you are, dude, but you should have called me 18 months ago. We farm captains 18 months.
Yeah, right.
And I said, okay, well, you got my name, you got my shit, and then 3 days later, he calls and says, somebody just resigned. Somebody just quit. Can you?
Oh, shit.
I jumped a plane that day, and I was in Fort Lewis the next day interviewing and was selected. And so lesson three is, go for it. Move
Yeah.
out and you move to the sound of guns, move to where you can see and feel things and then make it happen. So I was S1 and for a little bit, like my son Patty, and then I was selected for Bravo Company. Great leadership factory,
Yep.
like so
I'm
many
a
of our
I'm a
Ranger
big fan
companies
of
are.
Bravo Company 275. Yep.
Yeah. So this has sort of been my pattern of my career. So then I went over to ninth. I commanded. It was fantastic. And then a lot of the PFCs and specialists that went to Madigan Club and got in fights ended up standing in front of Captain Ferriter's desk at Odd Tench Hut, and we dug a lot of fighting positions and walked around the airfield a lot.
Yeah.
But I refused to bust these guys who had this sparkle in their eye and they were natural leaders. They were so adrenaline junkie up that they'd get in fights. They be who they are.
Yeah.
And year's 1988, and but they're the command sergeant majors that led us into this war. They're the ones that brought you up, and
Yeah.
the Greenways and Johnsons and Champacos and Sergeant Major England and LG and all those guys. They could have been. I could have
That was
kicked them out
great.
and sent them to big army, but I just felt that wasn't. They would be better, and
Yeah.
so I went to Ninth Infantry Division as a captain. Desert Storm kicked off, and then I went to Command General Staff College, and someone said all of the field grade positions to the regiment have been taken. And I said, well, that sucks. We didn't even get to interview. And so General Kernan came to visit to interview, and out of courtesy, he'd been very respectful to my father previously. So I went in just to say hi. Kernan was a first Ranger Battalion guy. He's second originally, Alpha, um, but then under Downing. But then he was commander of First Battalion. He was a DCO, and he watched me as a captain. So I went in there and I said, "Hey, sir, I understand that you're booked out, but I just want to say thanks and say hello." And he said, "I heard you were going to 101st." I said, "No, sir." He said, "Would you come to the regiment?" I said, "Absolutely." So again, the lesson is if you don't step into if you don't get in the arena,
Yeah.
you're not going to be a part of the fight. And so he picked me up. I was the shortest ever regimental staff officer at 61 days, and then I went down to third battalion. And but I commissioned all of the Dietz prints. General Grange gave me, go find this guy named Dietz,
Yeah.
commissioned 5 prints. So all the first were me and Jim Dietz working those up for General Grange and for the regiment. And
Wow.
then was field grade, was selected to be General Sullivan's aide, and we lost Colonel Stouse and
Yeah.
Colonel Keneally in the Great Salt Lake.
Yeah.
And so I stayed with 3rd Battalion to stabilize it. We brought in Colonel Danny McKnight, and then I launched. I took Bravo Company to Thailand for Cobra Gold, and we shot pallets upon pallets of ammo. And I think that's what made all those guys, Eversman and Kenny Thomas and Watson, and all, that made the platoons that good because they were just headland
Just
squad.
trained. Yeah.
They just were excellent. So we launched them to Mogadishu, and then I got told there's a heartbreaker that you can't go. So McKnight's going to go. Jim Klingerman went as the AS3, but as the S3 because we had some toxic other leadership. He asked me, stay here and keep this under control, bring the next company forward.
Right.
But that was real, it hurt a lot.
I can only
And
imagine. Yeah.
and then so I brought Alpha Company forward. We got rocketed and shot a bit. And then we got Mike Durant back, who was the pilot who was shot down and captured. And then came back and was selected to command in the 82nd Airborne Division, took Stan McChrystal's battalion, and he later would be the RCO underneath me underneath him. And then after 2 years at Bragg, I came down to 3rd Range Battalion to command it. And then the Army started sending me to positions to transform or create things. So I went to the School Brigade instead of the 75th Regiment. And again, what a heartbreaker to see my great friend Kenny Keene take command instead of me, and to be in TRADOC. But the Lord puts us where He needs us, and I had a chance to invent U.S. Army combatives.
Yeah.
And I had met the Gracies last year of Battalion Command in 375, and so General Abrams was the 4-star. He said, "Our officers are wimps. I want you to scuff them up." I said, "Sir, I'm a Ranger. We're good at scuffing things up." But I also saw that opportunity, and I got Matt Larson on my team. Matt is the father of Army combatives, and I am the godfather.
The Godfather. Yeah. And I verified that with Matt, by the way.
Good. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for sure. And he's a dear friend and great person. And then they sent me to a joint command in Norfolk, and then sent me to 82nd. I deployed to Iraq. Then I went back and to Norfolk to this joint command. And then I went back to Iraq, and they said, we have 104,000 Sunni men who want to come out of the cold, no longer be Al Qaeda. They're called Sons of Iraq. And everyone said, that's impossible to bring them.
Yeah.
And so I went to every street, every block, every village with this Iraqi Special Forces general, and convinced all the Iraqis generals to take these guys. And when we did, the killing and maiming of our soldiers in 2009 almost completely stopped. And so as a reward for that, I got to go to Fort Benning. It was the infantry center, and General Dempsey was the TRADOC commander or the chief of staff of the Army. He said, I want you to bring the armor school from Kentucky and Knox to
Oh, wow.
Benning.
Okay. Yeah.
And so bringing the infantry and the armor and the cavalry together is like bringing the Shia, Sunni, and Kurds together. And so there's a lot of tribalism.
That's actually a really good way to put that. Yeah.
It is. And so, I mean, I had to go to all these retired old generals of armor in particular and say, you gotta speak out and say, look, you know, because our captains and majors and lieutenant colonels and sergeant majors already figured it out. In the streets of Baghdad, they don't give a shit about branch.
Yeah.
You know, you may have an armor battalion on this side of the street. So, but everyone said that's impossible. And we were able to pull that off because relationships count. You get Listerine close with people, you speak with them, you tell the truth, and they can't say no to what's right. And it's about our soldiers, not about. I talked to Troxel and I said, Sergeant Major, you're sending 60% of your NCOs to Benny. A year later, those privates are going to be in combat. And
Yeah.
so he you know, he manned up, took care of the armor branch and school, and sent the right number of guys. And then I went over to Iraq as the DCG for advising and training,
Yep.
and took 99 bases down to 10 in Iraq.
Wow.
And then they gave me command of all the army bases around the world. So 75 cities with 123,000 people and $12 billion. And we ran like a business and cut $3 billion out of the budget in 2 years. But also it was every day was about soldiers and their families.
Right.
And then I retired and still teach jujitsu, still consult companies to help families out and do PT twice a day. And so that's the elevator pitch.
That is unbelievable, sir. And I can't believe how well you did that. You just covered your entire career and all the finer points and the highlights in about 21 and a half minutes. So that's pretty impressive.
Perfect.
All right, so we're going to deep dive into it. So, hey, everybody, hey, thanks for tuning in to hear the rest of Lieutenant General Ferriter's incredible journey in the 75th with stories of leadership, challenges, and triumphs. Hey, become an exclusive member and unlock the full episode, along with a lot more exciting content. And to our exclusive members, hey, thank you for your support. Now let's deep dive into the remarkable experiences of Lieutenant General Ferriter.